Hey all friends, welcome to the channel. Bob here, and yeah, I kind of like have a list of, I make a list of things that people ask on videos. So if someone makes a comment about something, I'll write it down with the kind of the plan of getting to it, essentially, just maybe do a video about it. And a little while ago I just did a quick video. I say a quick video, kind of quickly outlining the MMOs that I play and what's my favourite, what I think about them, stuff like that. And my plan was to do more in-depth kind of reviews of those games. I've kind of tried to avoid reviews in the past, but I do always feel a bit. I've mentioned it before, but I always feel a bit weird about because I know that some of you kind of have bought games after I played them, and obviously we're all adults. You make up your own mind, but I do feel a bit weird about. Yeah, giving people the wrong impression, whether it's good or bad, and people spending money based on what I say, etc. So I kind of tried like to avoid that, but I do get questions about games. Are you going to do some more content on it? Are you still playing it, etc., etc. So I thought I would do a series of videos individually covering each game that I play or maybe don't play. You know, and the first video today is Shroud of the Avatar. We're starting off. Yeah, we're starting off here, and I thought I would just talk about positives, negatives, where the game currently is, as far as from my point of view, and also kind of sort of catching up and listening to the recent like dev streams, that kind of thing. So yeah, this is a review, maybe a chat about Shroud of the Avatar rather than a review, maybe. Anyway, yeah, let's go. So we start, I guess, in probably what I personally think has become the biggest problem with the game, the most contentious issue, I think. Listening to Chris, who is kind of, I think he's kind of like the lead developer now. Well, he's kind of like in charge of the company who runs the game now, does a lot of the development stuff. You know, reading between the lines, I kind of feel that he's a bit fed up with it as well. Even though he's, you know, it's part of the game and he likes it and he's into it, I do feel that there are certain things that he's, you know, raising his hands up in the air about and yeah, why me kind of thing. But and I think it's to do with crafting, like sim life. I mean, if you look at this scene here, this is someone's city or someone's town, player-owned town. On the strength of it, you know, it looks pretty good. I kind of think that generally the design of them are terrible. You go into some of them and it's just glowing stuff, whether it's glowing dragons or whatever. It's just everywhere. It just looks like a rave. You know, there's no immersion with regards to like a fantasy stroke medieval setting. It just never looks right. But this is the kind of thing that you can do. You know, you can spend substantial amounts of money to buy your own player-owned town, and then you can fill it with this stuff. You can ask people to come along and live in it and fill it with stuff as well. And it's all generally, I think the principle behind it is great. The implementation is poor in my experience, and I think that's to do with, you know, it's kind of tied to a cash shop. So the developers, like, just in my opinion, have got caught in a loop of having to keep creating new trinkets and bits and pieces that, you know, that people can put into their town and spend money on, essentially. And I know that that's a big way that the game is funded, and you know, it's fine. It's, some people say it's not pay to win, but I kind of think it is, really. You know, being able to buy, I mean, you can earn a house in game, but being able to buy some of this stuff does give you an advantage over someone who's not going to be buying it. But yeah, but looking at the scene here, you know, if you're into your crafting and this kind of thing, this is what you can achieve. Don't be fooled by people who say, I came into the game and in 6 months, this is what I did. You know, that's where you've got to be careful, because there was a streamer a year or two ago he's kind of like a compulsive streamer who goes around starting new MMOs, gets help from people because he's streaming, you know, streamer privileges to build up a mass of in-game wealth, and then kind of moves on to another game. What I don't like is that he will sit there and say, I did this, achieve this myself in 6 months, when he didn't. There was a lot of help and a lot of power leveling and a lot of gifting, which is all fine, but be honest about those things. Don't try and garner favour by trying to get people into the game under false information. But yeah, so like on the face of it, if you're a crafter, this game has got lots for you, and you can do this kind of thing. Unfortunately, it's a massive grind. If you're someone who'd like to try crafting, but you're always put off because MMOs just don't seem to have create a balance between like fun and grinding, this is not going to be the game for you. I mean, apart from the fact that the menus are just so unwieldy and horrible to look at and horrible to use, there is just so much grinding involved in becoming a crafter in this game. Horrific. I actually did. I mean, this kind of video is not just. I haven't just not done some research. I did speak to someone who hasn't played the game for a period of time now, and they said that it would bring them to tears sometimes, metaphorically, because it was just unnecessarily unwieldy and unnecessarily grindy. But the plus point is that this is what you can do. If you're so inclined, if you want to spend real money, or you just want to dedicate years of your life to doing something, this is what you can achieve. But this is also, I think, what that's caused the public opinion of the game, the players' opinion from outside. I think it kind of stems back to when the game was first released and some of the things that players were told, and those players then invested money into it because it's what they wanted. And now the game is at a point where you can tell that Chris wants to change things and do some different things, but unfortunately, I don't understand it. I feel that if you're the head of a game and the game needs new blood, needs new money, and you're being held back because you don't want to upset people who have been here from the start, you have to make the right decision for the game, and that is to basically tell these people to get lost. And when I say get lost, I don't mean get lost. I mean, I need to make the game more attractive to a bigger audience, and you're stopping me from doing that. And I'm talking about like the oligarch crafters, people who at the beginning of the game, when the game first started being developed, they invested money, and fair enough, they invested money based on what they were told at the time. But MMO development changes quickly. In some cases, that's the nature of the game. If you come into an MMO and you chuck 5-6 figures at it, and then 6 years down the line it's a different game, well, that's just your problem. That's the nature of MMO development. And if you've been into MMOs for any period of time, you know that is the case. But developers have kind of boxed themselves into a corner now, where you've got these as I said, these crafters, big crafters, who have invested a lot of money and cash into the game, like real money, real cash, are resistant to any changes with regards to loot. As we all know, a fundamental part of an RPG, whatever one you play, whether it's an MMO or a single player one or whatever, is that one of the fundamental gameplay loops is that you go out and you go out with your friends, you beat the dragon, one of you might get, Sword of Dragon Slaying +10. You come home, maybe you didn't get something, but you know that it was worthwhile because someone in your guild or something got something. That's a fundamental part of an RPG. Always has been, going back to D&D before that. It's about going out, coming home with a loot. Now this game has loot, but I would say that A lot of it is underwhelming, particularly if you're a PvE player. A lot of it is centered around crafting. Again, yeah, but a lot of it is just underwhelming, you know. And the problem is that the thing that annoys me the most personally is that when you listen to streams and stuff, it's always the same crafters, you know, the handful of them who have got massive towns, and they don't seem to really care about the health of the game. If they did, they would be more flexible. You know, they only seem to care about their in-game wealth, and their out-of-game wealth as well. You know, it's. I mean, I was listening to a dev stream the other day, and Chris said that there are a load of items that have kind of got time limits on them, or the legacy items where there's all this stuff, but you can't put it back in the game because people would scream. And I'm assuming the people who would scream are the people who have cornered the market, or they're concerned about this pixel, the value of this pixel. It's just a ridiculous situation to be in when the game obviously needs some changes, you know, to bring in new players. But yeah, but there's a resistance to a fundamental RPG gameplay loop from a handful of very wealthy crafters who only seem interested in their their in-game wealth. That's all they seem to be concerned about. If they're concerned about the health of the game, they would welcome changes that would increase the player base. Now, obviously, there's a balance. You know, I'm not saying that if you invested in the game 6 years ago because you were told that player crafted stuff would be the best, then that's fine. But you know, you read between the lines, you listen to what these people say. It's always the same ones on the forums. They go to every stream and they, you know, browbeat Chris. They're not even interested in the balance, I don't think. You know, it's that, you know, my stuff has to be the best. I don't want loot, you know, at all. Some of them, I think, is a situation. And it's just a sad thing, you know, a sad thing that you feel that way about a game that clearly needs some help, you know, with regards to numbers, because the people financially supporting the game is quite small. It needs more people, because those people might not always be supporting the game. You know, then what happens? It's it's a shame. I mean, I really find it a shame, because I feel that the game in other areas has got a lot to offer, but it's being held back by old players who only seem interested in their in-game wealth. And it's not even as though these crafters are allowing, like, you know, normal casual players to actually kind of equip themselves for reasonable cost. You know, there's one guy in particular, you go to his town and the stuff on his craft, I mean, I've amassed my character level is, I don't know what it is, 100 and something. You know, I've amassed an amount of gold while I've been playing the game. And I go there, and even with, I mean, I'm not rich, but I've got enough. But even with the gold that I've got as an old experienced player, I won't pay the prices. They're just ridiculous, just for like basic stuff. And I know that it's a player-driven economy, but the problem is you can never trust players. That's the thing. And I don't mean you can never trust them in the fact they're criminals or whatever, but you just can't trust you can't trust sort of people who are willing to dedicate that much time to something, because it ultimately becomes about them getting as much as they can from it, which you might think, well, that's economics 101, but it's a game. You know, when it's damaging the game, as it clearly has been for a period of years now in this game's case, yeah, you need changes. So I think that's where a lot of the problems come from, you know, from the game. And it's not just crafters either. You know, there was an incident recently where Chris wanted to make a change. A player who has apparently been a big investor, like a six-figure investor, got the ump about it, says he was going to leave, and so they went back on the change, you know. And it's weird because they implemented some gameplay balance changes recently that they seem to think was a success, and not many people were moaning about it. But I imagine that's probably because there's not a huge amount of people playing it, and the only people still playing the game, you know, possibly are the people that just go to the stream and nod every day, you know. But it's funny because they made some changes recently that some people weren't happy about. But they haven't gone back on those. And I'm going to assume because these are just maybe a normal casual player. But that's a... I mean, apparently this person did it once before. And apparently, like Richard Garriott himself, logged in to talk to this guy. And I just feel that when you've got that much player power, that's not good for the game. And that should be shut down. You know, I'd say, okay, I'm sorry, friend. You know, you've invested 100 grand in the game. Well, it's a game. You know, you knew that going into it. But I need to make changes to the game that's good for the long-term health of the game. So the developers have to take quite a lot of responsibility for like bowing down to these players. But maybe they're in a situation where they've got to. You know, maybe this six-figure guy is keeping the lights on. And if he is, that's an even bigger problem. I mean, that really is a big issue. But yeah, I think where the game currently is in regards to its reputation outside of the game, and people who have come and left, I think a lot of it is down to this reliance on these old players who seem to be dictating how the game is developed. And yeah, but that's the crafting and the economy side of things. There are other things as well that they kind of shoot themselves in the foot with, like this thing. So, you know, I was watching a video. I went to watch a video this morning because I was interested in some of the gameplay balance changes, and the bulk of the video is talking about this massive mansion that they've built for Lord of the Land, you know, subscribers or something. And the actual balance changes were basically, you know, talking about what the balance changes were, and then it's like we're going to take questions, but then there didn't seem to be any questions answered, you know, so they really don't help themselves. I think this Lord of the Land pledge thing as well. They're also getting invited to go for dinner with Richard and developers and all that kind of thing, and that's the problem. That's what's wrong with it. That's why the game's reputation outside of the game is so poor, because people don't want to come and spend money on a game where players have so much power. You know, this has taken listening to players too far, in my opinion, and in many other people who have come and gone as well. You know, it's a thing. But that's that side of it. You know, let's kind of move on to maybe some more gameplay stuff, and see where we go with that. Hey all friends, welcome back to the channel. Bob here. So today, in this part of the video, we'll talk about the world itself. I find it really, it's one of the best things about the game. I find it really immersive. Now this is the Overworld Map, and the stuff you see dotted around, like the pole with the skulls and these buildings and stuff, are zones that you zone into. So although I didn't like the Overworld Map when I first started playing. So although the Overworld Map it's kind of like an illusion of being a big open world, I think it works. Like, I really enjoy exploring it. You know, it's immersive. It does make you feel that there is a world here. And when you reach locations and you enter them, it kind of feels as though, yeah, you're reaching that location if you were following a map and then you're entering into it. So I really like it. The landscape is varied quite often, so like the Shardfall over here, quite often you know, you will get let's go and have a look. Quite often you will get a graphic representation on the map of, can I go over there? Let's go around this way. Quite often you'll get a graphic representation of what's there, particularly if it's like a point of interest like the Shardfall here. Yeah, and I find the Overworld map immersive. I also find like quite a lot of the is it going to let me get in here, or is it just going to be like annoying? It's going to be annoying, isn't it? Well, here you go. There's a well-planned part of the video. But anyway, yes, I find the Overworld map immersive, and the zones that you go into generally I find quite immersive as well. You know, there used to be a lot of them that were clones. I think there still are a number. The problem with the scenes, or the zones, whatever you want to call them, is that there's quite a lot of lore within the game. Now there is a story that runs through the game, which, if you're into that kind of thing, that you will enjoy. I think you can actually go through it in a single player mode. It does use a very archaic quest and chat system, which you may well find very frustrating if you're. How do I get into this zone? Let's go. You may well find it very frustrating. Okay. Does it want to let me go or not? Enter. Onward. Yeah, you may find it frustrating. It is the chat and the quest system is very annoying, but there are quests in the game. You may come across some bugs as you go through them, but it's there. You know, there's a book you can read. I personally bought the book. I'm the only one in the zone by looks of things. This is not my deck that I should be using. So let's change decks, and we can talk about the deck stuff as well, I guess. So yeah, that's. Let's have a little buff up first. Yeah, so as you can see here, let's go first person. Some zones are beautiful, like really atmospheric. The music fits, visually it looks great. Don't seem to come across too many environmental sounds, which is, you know, can be a bit of an issue. I would like a bit more of that, please, but. Yeah, but generally, the zones are very atmospheric. The Overworld map I find atmospheric as well. So from an immersion point of view, you know, I do... Whenever I play the game, it's the best part about it for me. I just find it very immersive. If you just excuse me, I need to find... let's have a look. I'm just going to get a pet out. Who should we get? Get Tusks because he's generally get my boar because he's generally yeah the best for aggro. So yeah, so beautiful zone, some great design, some great colouring. I think the colouring here is meant to feel alien because of the shard fall, but yeah, it's anything we can get to fight. But overall, that side of it is very good, and as I said, there is a story running through it. There is also some books to follow, so there is immersion, there is storytelling here that if you can get past the did it actually fire? It did, yeah. If you can get past the archaic menus that you need to use to play the game, then you know I think there's some stuff here to be enjoyed. But part of the problem with the scenes is that a lot of them are low level. And they just get bypassed. I mean, what the game desperately needs really is some kind of scaling system. So if I go to any scene, you know, I can scale it to my level, so that at least I can go in there, and you know, it also means that the rewards are scaled as well. So it's worth me going in there. Yeah, but I think that's kind of what's needed at the moment. A lot of the zones that are just unused. Where's Tusks? Has he got stuck? It looks like it. Okay. Well, that happens. Where are you? Oh, there he is. Great. So yeah, so here's a bug. Like even in an open zone, where you would think pathing would be kind of reasonable. Yeah, he's having issues. But there you go. Okay, so they're bugged, aren't they? Yeah. Okay. Well, at least he's coming with me now. So there's some stuff that happens in games that happens. We'll ignore that for now. So yeah, but as I said, I think the problem is that a lot of the zones are just unused. People just don't go and use them. Tusks is stuck again. He won't obey my commands. Okay. Finally did. Okay, so yeah, so this is where the game really suffers, in my humble opinion. I just think that there has been too much focus on stuff that should have had less focus on a long time ago. That's the crafting kind of sim life side of things, and it's the gameplay stuff that is a problem. Try not to get sidetracked. Let's just finish off talking about the scenes and stuff. Yeah, so the scenes, there's so many scenes that are just not, people just don't go to, and something needs to be done to either revamp them, which they are talking about doing. You know, fingers crossed. So kind of I should be looting these because I think that they do occasionally drop something reasonable. Yeah, so something needs to be done to make the zones more attractive, people to go to them. Some sort of scaling system, I think, would be a good idea. And it's something that they've talked about, so hopefully that will be something that is implemented. But yeah, from a storytelling, immersion, questing point of view, there's stuff there. I enjoyed it. The immersion side of the game is one of the things that I enjoy the most. But a warning, is that it is, if you're coming here, if you're going to watch a video and come and play the game for that, you've got to be aware that, where's the flower? There it is. You've got to be aware that a lot of the systems are archaic in comparison to what you might be useful. And the games and some systems really do need updating that they keep talking about, but it doesn't get done. So yeah, that's a bit of an issue. Onto combat. Combat is is a mixed bag, like a big mixed bag. I mean, the system kind of works a bit like a collectible card game. Oh, holy smokes! What the hell is going on? Maybe this is not the best zone to be running around in. It seems as though pets are not. No. It seems as though pets are not doing very well here in this zone. Let's see how he manages this terrain. Well, it kind of worked. Kind of worked. Yeah, the game is based around, so you kind of build decks. I think I need to wait for the combat to finish first before I can show you the decks, but it's worth pointing out because I think it's something that people will. I think it's something that people will enjoy. I don't think these golems take much damage from fire. I think the pet's doing all the damage. Yeah. Garum slow. Anytime you like, pet. Also, it looks like we've got like a stone. Come tusks. We've got a stone golem boss, and I've now got no mana. A focus drain. Okay, so I guess this is the boss's. Yeah, is that the boss's debuff? Nice. Okay, so you kind of see like a named mob as well. Let's just see if I can just get some DPS out before I lose all of my mana. Because it doesn't look as though... No. Okay, it's interesting. Also can't heal my pet. So, an interesting boss. I've got no focus. That's a strange design decision. Where you design a boss that can't be killed by magic users. That's quite weird. I don't have any food at the moment, so I guess that is a problem. Okay, so that's okay. So that's okay. He seems to have. It's quite interesting to find this while I'm doing the review because this is pretty decent. So he's kind of got like a debuff thing around him that means that I'm not sure I'm going to be able to. I mean, I think the pet will probably eventually kill him, so I'll just keep healing him. But yeah, I don't think he's taking any damage from the fire ring. So Yeah, he's taking 0 damage. Okay. I don't think it's probably... I mean, this is a review. I don't want to get caught up in like a gameplay thing. So, I think I will probably move on and call that a... get out. I'll probably get out of here anyway. This is kind of not what the video is about. But it's interesting to see. You can see that there are named mobs and stuff in the game as well, and it all kind of adds to the mystery of exploring the game. And you will find dungeons, you will find tough mobs, and I guess this is where we kind of move on to the gameplay side of things. And I think we'll talk about the deck system first. Let's dismiss my pet. So we'll move over here. I don't think I'm aggro. We'll have to see. I'll leg it if I am. So you can build decks basically. This is my pet deck, which is not particularly good at the moment. But as you raise your skills, so if I go to taming, for example, well, if you look at life magic, actually, you start off with a glyph, which is what these are called. As you go up in level, you get extra glyphs to a point where I think I don't know if it's level 60 or level 80 in a skill. You get 5 glyphs, and then you can then make decks. So you can put these glyphs on your deck bar here, your spell bars. You can lock them so that glyph is always there for you to use, or you can have it unlocked. So what will happen is if I go into combat, number 2 that's unlocked, it will just cycle through. It depends on the cooldown of those spells. So quite often for unlocked ones you want spells with low cooldown. But yeah, that just allows you to cycle through those if you want to cast something quick. I find it quite useful for healing because you can just keep cycling through healing spells basically. But as you can see, everything here is locked. Everything else is locked. You can charge up for greater versions of these. So for fire, I've got 5 glyphs plus 1 extra for specialization. So for Ring of Fire here, I can charge that up to 6, to a power of 6 for 6 glyphs. And what that does, it kind of increases damage, duration, that kind of thing if you stack a spell. They did make some nerfs to Ring of Fire, particularly, was one of the spells because they thought it was overpowered. It was quite strong, but I'm not sure that some of the reasons for making, we'll talk about that later on, but that's, you kind of build decks. If you like building CCG decks, collectible card game decks, you'll quite like that. The problem with combat overall is that a lot of these magic trees, there are so many kind of dead skills, really. Looking at some of them in the fire tree, I bet a lot of them a lot of these skills just don't get used. Some trees are very weak. Some spells like Root, for example, it's not even worth using for the period of time that it lasts. It's not really a crowd control spell. And the thing is, overall, I think, is that the combat is quite fast paced, so it doesn't really need crowd control. If you're looking for a game that has got tactical gameplay, like you've seen my Project 1999 videos. If you're looking for a game that's got that kind of tactical gameplay, this game doesn't have that. Combat is very quick. When you see the top players, it's all about bursting down, DPSing mobs down as quickly as possible and just healing yourself. So any kind of strategic side to combat, there really isn't any. And I mean, as you know, I love taming in games. Holy smoke, I love taming in games, but I've spent millions and millions of XP in the taming tree, and this is what I get. That's it. I get a meat shield who I can tell to attack or come back again. There's no... I think there is. I have got a special ability which I just don't use. I think there's one. It's called Frenzy, which I've got at GM, but I mean I don't use it. It buffs up some stuff, makes him do more damage, but it's just lackluster. You know, for a skill tree that where I've spent millions, tens of millions of XP to get to a certain point, and what I've got is a pet that I just send him in, and that's it. There's no interaction between me and my pet. There's no cool stuff. He's got no abilities apart from that one that they've all got the same one. You know, there's no ability that I can click. If I need him to taunt something quickly, I can't, you know, taunt. Maybe some different damage types, different types of attacks, just so I feel like I'm interacting with my pet in some way. But basically, it's target a mob and send him in. And it's not even as though he acts particularly well. You know, I mean, the time between him receiving an instruction. Great. Okay, we've logged out. The time between him receiving an instruction and actually taking out the instruction is frustratingly slow. He's got no abilities for me to use, so it's just a case of attack, don't attack. And there are a lot of trees like that, you know. And it's interesting listening to some of the reasons for like some of the gameplay balances recently, where gameplay balances basically meant making stuff harder, making spells less effective. That's basically what the balances were. Not balances in my opinion, but you know, it's I do feel that some things need changing. Some scenes were given too much XP, but the problem now is that the people who are taking advantage of that have already done it. They're already AL 150, so they don't care anymore. So the only people that you're hurting are the people who are trying to do that, trying to get XP to raise their skills. And after a certain point, I didn't think the XP game was that bad, because after a certain point, skills are really grindy, like really grindy to raise. You need millions, tens of millions of XP, and and your feeling of progression just stalls because you need so much XP. It takes long enough to grind it anyway if you're a casual normal player, and they're making it harder for you to get XP. You know, it's I know they're saying they're not making it harder because the average player can still get the same amount of XP, but the people who are abusing the system have already abused it. They're already super level, super rich, super whatever, you know, so it's just a bit late. And yes, some of the reasonings for changing spells, I mean, stuff like Ring of Fire was a spell that definitely was overpowered and needed changing, but you know, one of the things that Chris said was that he looked at the spells that were being used the most, and took that as a barometer for stuff that needed balancing. Well, you know, part of the problem is that the skill trees are full of spells and abilities that are they're rubbish. They're just boring. That's why no one uses them. You know, it's okay. So if you think Ring of Fire is overpowered, which it probably was, you change that. That's fine, but don't just change that. You know, do something with all of the other skills that people are not using. You know, people are not using Ring of Fire and Banish Undead just because they're effective. It's also because there isn't anything else to use. You know, like Death Tree, for example, ridiculous. You can't use, if you want to be a death mage, you can't fight undead. Ridiculous. What's that all about? It's just stupid. You know, I've never heard anything so ridiculous in my life. In every other role-playing game, from D&D to whatever, if you're a necromancer, you're a master of the undead. That's the whole point. So if you want to come in and role-play a necromancer, you kind of can't, because there's loads of undead. You can't damage them, so you have to spend points somewhere else. And maybe that's not how you want to play. You know, it's funny how they talk about like freedom, gameplay freedom. You know, it's classless and there are no caps because they want you to play how you want to play, but they've really given you very few spells to use that you're going to use, you know, because they're the most effective ones. As I said, I understand that some stuff needed nerfing, but yeah, it's you know, you've got to make other stuff more interesting. You know, the reason that people are using these spells are not just because they're the most effective, but also because everything else is just dull, and it's just not as effective. You know, so okay, nerf stuff, but you've still got loads of spells in trees and abilities that people just don't use. You know, it's so you need to do something with those, and maybe it will happen, maybe not. I think my overall opinion of Shroud the Avatar is like, if you took all of the current MMOs and put them in a room, and there was an old couple in the corner, you know, World of Warcraft would be the one where the old couple would go, oh, they're a bit loud, aren't they? You know, something else, I don't know. Project Gorgon would be, they look like interesting people. There's a lot going on there. You know, there's not many of them, but what they're doing, yeah, it seems all right. But I think Shroud the Avatar will be the one where the old couple went, oh, that's a shame, isn't it? That's a shame. You know, that's a shame. Look at the game. You know, the game feels like it wants to break out. The developers feel like they want to change stuff, but they're caught relying on wealthy in-game oligarchs who are not interested in the game, the health of the game. They're just interested in their own personal fortune, and it is a shame, because I feel that like the role play, the fantasy RPG atmosphere is there, the immersion's there. Even if you find the menus and systems tricky, you know, there is a story there. There's a book or two you can go and read that tells you a bit more about the lore. It's kind of there, but there's a lot of other stuff that's being held back because there's too much time and money and resources being spent on crafting and sim life, and not enough on what people, you know, I was going to say what people want to play RPGs for. Obviously there are people who like crafting and the sim life and that kind of thing, but the majority of people want to play a game. You know, they want to go out and visit a zone, and the encounters are interesting. You know, the combat's interesting. They feel like they're making progress. You know, when they kill the dragon, they get something. They don't just get a gem and some gold and whatever. You know, there's a chance that they'll get a real upgrade, and that is all being held back. Yeah, it seems, from people who just want. You know. They don't want you to get stuff from a dragon, they want to make it for you. The thing is as well, it's not even as though the process of getting stuff from a crafter is interesting. It's boring. You know, if you go to one of these big crafter towns, there's so much crap in there that the performance is terrible. So it's like watching a slideshow. There are hundreds of vendors with tons of crap. You have to just look through them. Who wants to play a fantasy role-playing game and then walk around a poor performing city because there are too many decorations in it, looking at hundreds of vendors to try and find a ring or a sword that's an upgrade? No one wants to do that, really. You know, I say no one, obviously I'm slightly exaggerating. Maybe there are a few people. But people who play RPGs don't want to do that, you know, the majority. It's just not, it's not fun. There's not even a sorting system. So you can't even go into a crafting town. I mean, even Project Gorgon, that's got like 2 people working on it, has got a system where if you want to look for an item, it will tell you what vendor's got it. You know, it's like, that's 2 people in that game. 2 people running that game for the majority of the time. And they've got that. So you go into a town and you run around at 15 frames a second. No matter how much they talk, I mean, I've got a 2080 Super at the moment. I'll be upgrading it to whatever the 3000 series is when it comes out. And I've got a 48 thread CPU. When I go into some of these towns, it crawls along. And it's not my system. My system is perfectly optimized, runs all the new games flawlessly. It's because there are too many decos. And there are just too many things. So you run around a slideshow, you know, trying to find an upgrade. It's just not fun. But anyway, I'm gonna end it here. My overall feeling is that I can't recommend that you put money into Shroud the Avatar. As much as I want to see these changes to make things. Look at that. Look at that. Lovely moonlight there on the water. I could just sit here and watch that for the rest of the evening. You know, soaking up the atmosphere, listening to the music. But even though I want the game to improve, and there are things about it I like, I can't recommend you put money into it, which, you know, selfishly I want to, because then maybe there'll be more money to get those things right. But then maybe it'll just be money that will get swallowed up by, you know, Mr. Rich Crafter wants a new house. He wants new armour to craft. You know, I don't trust that your money will be spent on the things in game that maybe you want. Obviously, if you like what I've said about the crafting, go for it. You know, but overall, I can't recommend you put money into the game at the moment. If you go to the official website, it shows you the lack of interest in the game at the moment. Where the official website, where the lead developer is talking about the game and talking about changes, the videos get less than 100 views. Some of them. Majority of them less than 200. It's like the interest in the game is just seems at an all-time low when you got the head can you imagine that happening at Pantheon? No, I can't. And I understand that maybe Pantheon has had more money put into it, but that's not the only reason. You know, at a time where the interest in the game is just at its lowest, it appears, looking at the media, make some changes, guys. You know, just make some changes. If you have to tell some people who, fair enough, have maybe propped you up in the past that we're changing this, you need to suck it up, then just tell them. It's the only way, long term, I feel that the game is going to be healthy. Yeah, so as I said, I can't recommend the game to you at the moment. There are lots of talks of changes and up and coming things and whatnot. You can go to the official YouTube channel and listen to. But because of my past experiences, it's very much a wait and see what happens. What I will do is they're introducing a bard skill tree soon, which is interesting. You know, as someone who was a tamer bard in Ultra Online, I'll be trying it out. So I'll do a video covering that. We'll see what that's like. But yeah, as soon as I feel that the game is heading in the right direction, I'll certainly come and tell you to give it a go. You know, just if you've got some spare cash, chuck it in. But at the moment, I can't do that. There are some good points. The deck building system, the immersion, the lore, some of the story, even though the systems are quite archaic, as I said. But while the game is beholden to a minority of wealthy in-game players, it's just not a recommendation, unfortunately. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you again soon.